Today, I want to talk about Zoe from Miraculous Ladybug, and how in Season 6, I think she will continue to replace Chloe, including maybe even dating Sabrina. Hear me out. Chloe was introduced right in Episode 1 as the popular mean girl at DuPont High, and despite a lot of fans wanting her to eventually be redeemed, series creator Thomas Astruck has made it clear that he hates Chloe and wants her to remain a villain in order to teach children an important lesson about how unsavable some people are. The whole point for Chloe is that she masquerades as wanting to be good, wanting to be a hero, but really what she wants is power and authority. And while she dances with the idea of maybe having something of a redemption, at the end of the day, the plan was always for her to return to evil and essentially just be a tool for people like Hawkmoth and Lila. Some people hate to hear that, but when you don't acknowledge that some people abuse every opportunity that is given to them, you just end up villainizing the people who did their best to help them before realizing that this person is actively trying to sabotage you and ruin your life. Because of Chloe's popularity as a figure, however, there have been attempts to replace her, with the most obvious example of this being her sister Zoe. Zoe and Chloe are half-sisters having the same mother, with Zoe living all the way over in New York until she finally moved back in with her family. Until this, she had been attending a boarding school where she was generally hated by the other girls. This is never really explained in the show, with there being hints of Zoe just not conforming enough to the other girls' standards, but we see her trying to do her best with her family when she returns to Paris, so I'm sure there's more layers to it and her trying to blend in there. What all of this really told us was that Zoe was in boarding school because she did not feel comfortable trying to live in Paris. This is because she and Chloe are only about a year apart in age and have different dads, despite Audrey and Andre celebrating their 20th anniversary in the show. This means that Zoe grew up knowing that her mother had her when she cheated on Andre with another man. It is possible that the two had something of a separation and it was understood that they would be seeing other people in that time. But Chloe doesn't act like her mother and father had a serious separation in the past despite their hostility towards each other. So it seems that, like with everything else that Audrey does wrong in the relationship, Andre simply looked the other way. Despite often being corrupt and villainous himself, he's actually the only one in the family who shows support for Zoe, becoming closer with her in the end than his own daughter Chloe. This is because Andre recognizes Zoe as not just the outcome of Audrey's actions, but also in a way his own. He is pretty aware that he is subservient to everyone else in his life and is really only in the position he is in so that he can exploit the public and then be exploited himself. He seems to recognize that he just let Audrey be the kind of person who would end up getting pregnant by another man, and he doesn't want Zoe to feel alienated because of it. It's perhaps the only wholesome part of an otherwise very corrupt and very flawed man, even when he is well-meaning. For most of Zoe's life, however, she didn't have the opportunity to find the support, choosing to stay in New York and go to boarding school until eventually she couldn't handle it anymore, eventually returning to Paris to be treated like a minion to her sister. Despite her wild origin story, Zoe becomes the obvious choice to replace Chloe when it came to who should be the holder of the Be Miraculous, with Marinette choosing her in many ways because she was Chloe's sister, and she needed someone who understood Chloe in that way in order to help defeat her. Since then, Zoe had become the go-to choice for the Be Miraculous, and is still seen wielding it in the finale when Marinette talks about each Miraculous holder having to carry their own Miraculous from now on. Zoe then seems to be staying in Paris, whereas Audrey and Chloe seem to be off to London. But that just leaves room for Zoe to steal even more of Chloe's life in my opinion, not just her father. After taking over the school and then Paris, and working with Monarch so many times, Chloe ended up losing everything, not just her father's power and wealth, but also her friend Sabrina. Sabrina is an interesting character because she's largely been a villain by being close to Chloe, acting as her sidekick. But she didn't always want to be this way. Sabrina seems to really look up to her father, who is a police officer. She sees herself as having a duty to not break the rules too much, even if she's been willing to do things like all of Chloe's homework since they started learning how to write. She definitely has a mean streak and does seem to enjoy dunking on the other kids with Chloe, but as time goes on, she becomes more and more concerned about Chloe's behavior. Eventually, Sabrina was asked to use her power to copy handwriting in order to get all of the other students into the wrong career paths for their next steps in education, pretty much sabotaging the future of her classmates. This causes Sabrina to break down and admit that she was forced to do this, but helps Marinette to prove it so that Chloe and Lila can't hold the other students hostage with their social manipulations. The sad part about this is that Sabrina really did care about Chloe. Early on, we saw that even outside of school, the two seemed to love spending time together, and Sabrina was always welcome at Chloe's home. Don't get me wrong, she was often there just to be Chloe's personal servant and do her homework in the closet, but we even see montages of them playing Ladybug and Cat Noir together, where Chloe seems to be having genuine fun as well, even tickling Sabrina. It's kind of sad that their friendship ended, but Sabrina is now able to more comfortably embrace her role as the holder of the Dog Miraculous, especially now that Marinette has taught her that she can change from who she was before and choose to be a hero. And now, Zoe I think has potential to replace Chloe in Sabrina's life, and in fact, I think it's possible they could even date. Now, Sabrina has been shown to be attracted to a guy in the Miraculous World New York special, which is canon to the series, and characters that were introduced there do end up crossing over in the show. But in the series proper, Sabrina mostly just seems to show attraction to Chloe and girls like her. That doesn't just mean being blonde-haired and blue-eyed, but also being a bit of a bully. Zoe played this role so well when Chloe forced her to that Sabrina latched onto her in her introductory episode and actually asked if she could do Zoe's homework for her. Now, Zoe isn't actually this kind of bully, of course, but as Sabrina begins to deconstruct her relationship with Chloe and understand what she appreciated about Chloe, and understand the kind of draw that Chloe had over her, I imagine that she will want someone more so like Zoe. We later see Zoe not being afraid to get in Chloe's face and even outright stop Chloe from harassing Marinette, and I imagine that Sabrina could look at these kind of behaviors and see it as having the same powerful vibe that she appreciated in Zoe before, but now being used as a force for good. Sabrina and Zoe will both be Miraculous holders in the new season, so even with Sabrina going to the next level in their education and Zoe being left behind at DuPont High, she'll still have opportunities to see Zoe in action, and maybe develop a friendship or even romantic feelings for her. After all, Adrien doesn't have to be the only character to have a crush on another superhero, and with each hero now being the holder of their own Miraculous, there's more opportunity for them to get to know each other in this way without knowing their actual secret identities. Zoe, of course, had previously expressed feelings for Marinette, who is destined for Adrien even if they have to break up for a short while at some point, and the show is bound to find new combinations for these side characters to pair up with once their feelings have been addressed and dismissed. With Adrien and Marinette finally getting together, Kagami was set up with Felix as a sort of perfect clone for her to have, and the other characters have started pairing up as well. Sabrina doesn't exactly embody what Marinette is, and if the show wants to give Zoe a clone of Marinette to fall in love with, the more likely candidate would be her older friend, Socaline. But not everyone who is in love with Marinette or Adrien needs a perfect clone of them. Heck, most fans would have preferred if Kagami ended up with Luca instead of Felix apparently, which is a trope I love in anime, with two characters falling in love with each other after both originally being in love with someone from the main couple. It would certainly help keep up the trend of Zoe proving that she can take everything Chloe was handed in life and making better use of it. The show is also really about its yin-yang pairings of characters who bond in unique ways, and having Chloe be what connects the two would be fun. But what do you guys think? There are so many different characters in the show already that can be matched up together, and with season 6 on the way, we'll likely be getting a lot of new characters to explore as well. Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time.